Now see here, son, I ain't no snake oil salesman. My all ailments miracle cure is made with fish oil. Hey there, kiddos, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Uncle Frank, and you are having a great day. And in today's video, I'd like to sit back in my not really squeaky chair, relax, and have a little conversation with all of you guys about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game sealed market. And today I'd like to discuss which boxes you guys should be picking up. I'm just kidding. Relax. Put down those torches and pitchforks. In today's video, we're finally talking about the Sorcery TCG. That's right. You guys have been asking for it for quite some time. It's in fact the most requested card game I've had on the channel. And I confess it has taken me a while to get around to talking about Sorcery, if only because while I'm always comfortable with giving my initial first thoughts on a card game, and I could totally have just made a video about it, for Sorcery, with how popular it seemed, and it does seem very popular with some very passionate fans, I wanted to give it an earnest first go. Try to play the game, try to look at some of the cards, learn about the mechanics to the best of my ability. Which isn't a lot of ability, I do confess, but still, I'd like to actually have given it a try before talking about it, just because you guys seem so really passionate about it. And finally, relatively recently, I have had an actual chance to actually play it. And even more recently, get a giant bulk pile for it. Fun stuff. I always love me some bulk. So yeah, let's talk about Sorcery a bit. You know, give my overall first thoughts on the game. So first off, let's talk about the history a bit. Sorcery is created by a company named Eric's Curiosa, which is named after the guy in charge, Eric. And that's an interesting choice, naming your brand after yourself. Couldn't imagine that. It was initially a Kickstarter game. Did you know that? Yeah, Sorcery started out as a Kickstarter game back in 2023, I think. The Kickstarter was successful, and in early 2023, the Alpha set launched, Sorcery Alpha, with a wider beta release happening in a very loud truck. A wider beta release happening later that year in October, I think. And for all intents and purposes, this first set, Alpha and Beta were the same set, just different prints of the same set. It was very successful. A lot of popularity surrounded the set, and those Alpha boxes obviously did really well, with Beta doing kind of good too, all things considered. And 2023 came and went, and then nothing. Not a whole lot of releases for the game, because the next set, Arthurian Legends, wouldn't come until later on in 2024, which is odd, because you see, most card games will have sets ramped up, sets ready to go. Every 3 months for most TCGs is the average. Obviously, games like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Push that average a bit closer together, with Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! Both having releases like every month, I think. Crazy stuff. But yeah, no, not Sorcery. Sorcery has had, for the most part, one release a year. 2024 had Arthurian Legends, and 2025 has had a mini set, Dragon Lord, which was only a handful of cards, as well as the Gothic set in December. So, unlike a lot of other TCGs, which will have several sets released in a year, Sorcery has only had one major set a year, which is not the industry standard. I will say that. I will say that much. And this sparse release cycle, it does some interesting things, in my opinion, for the card game. And you're going to hear variations of this opinion, I think, from a lot of people who play the game more in depth than I do. That's for sure. The pros and cons of it. There is a con. It does lead to what some people have described as a kind of stagnant meta for the game. That is without a doubt, I think, with such a slow release cycle. There is obviously going to be some stagnancy to the meta, especially if after a year comes and goes, a new set releases, and the new set itself isn't very impactful. That could, theoretically, lead to a very stagnant metagame. However, the counterplay to that is that it also leads to a very long-term balanced metagame for the game, where, for lack of a better way to phrase it, people get really comfortable with, they get really familiar with the cards available to them in the card pool, not just for the individual sets, but for the game as a whole. Since there's so much time between releases, players, or really passionate players at the very least, have the opportunity to become really familiar with a wide swathe of cards. Or at least that's kind of what I've been seeing from people online. Is, sure, there's a bit of fatigue in between the sets in terms of waiting for the next set to come out and getting kind of tired with the metagame for some people. But with other people, they're just happy about being able to play such a relatively stable card game. There's a lot of genuine optimism about the state of the game in general. It seems to be well balanced, at least from what some people are saying online, with a lot of just a lot of general positivity over the current release schedule, which is nice for some people, I think, especially again as you compare it to games like Magic, for instance, which have almost monthly releases to the point where it can feel taxing on your sanity just trying to keep track of all the sets. There's thousands of new Magic cards coming out every year, and it's difficult to keep track of what's even in what set. Hell, for Wizards, it's difficult to keep track of what's in what set if you look at their pre-release blunders lately. But Sorcery, at the very least, doesn't have that because, again, one major set per year. Pretty nice stuff. Another thing that's really worth talking about for the card game is the art. The art is a huge draw for this game. Yes, the gameplay is good. I'll get that out of the way. The game rules take some getting used to. The grid, the 5x4 card grid that plays more like a battle map board game thing, that takes some getting used to, but once you get it explained to you, I think it's fairly intuitive, all things considered. The in-game, it's not really a mythos, but the in-game like direction and all that jazz, the feel of the game, that's really cool. The rules are nice, the core gameplay is tight, but the art is really where a lot of people advertise their love of the game. And it's not hard to see why. It has that nice, really dope, classic, almost dark fantasy vibe to it. And it's got this, at least I'm pretty sure they have this policy of hand-painted only art, which really gives this really nice sense of authenticity to the game, where I can show off some of the cards. Like, they just look really nice, you know? This burning skull. Isn't that crazy? You know, the overall... Here's a good one. The overall feel of the game is really dope, with a lot of really high-quality art showcasing traditional art, painted art, that I think kind of got left to the wayside by a lot of other TCGs in recent years. And I've said before, obviously, good card art alone is not enough to make a game, and it's just a bonus. But with Sorcery being a solid game already, having that nice art be a focal point of the game is an exquisite bonus. To the point where, sure, it's a major drawing factor, but it doesn't undermine the game at all. You know, the game isn't sacrificing any of its gameplay or its mechanics just for the sake of having nice art. There's some really good gameplay here. But all that being said, the art is great. There's an all-star art team of artists providing work for Sorcery. They reuse Boris Vallejo art, I think. But I know Ed Beard Jr. worked on it, Drew Tucker, Melissa Benson, and plenty more. And more, I hope, at least, will be added to the lineup, including some of my favorites. But, yeah, the art is a really nice thing, and it seems to have a nice, like, collector scene just for the art itself. There's loads of people who are collecting full sets just to get a hold of that art because they like it. And that's nice. That's really cool. And again, these are people who were brought into it by the game, by the mechanics, all that jazz. And it just helps make sorcery as a game feel more well loved. So that's nice. As for what I think one of the bigger appeals for it is, I'm going to be honest. One of the ways sorcery was advertised to me was, if you're tired of Magic the Gathering, try sorcery. A lot of people have advertised sorcery to me as an, if you're sick of how Wizards of the Coast is treating Magic, give sorcery a try. This was the same advertisement used to get me into Flesh and Blood. And let me tell you, it's good fucking advertising. Because, yeah, sorcery does have that nice old-school Magic the Gathering feel. That old-school Magic the Gathering art. Yes, again, the grid is a bit unintuitive at first. But once you get into it, once you get used to the rules and all the mechanics and stuff, it's fun, it's fine. And being able to play a different kind of card game, a board game card game, while also enjoying some really phenomenal art that has no AI. It's got no AI, none of that crazy crap that Wizards is trying to shove into it with ugly as sin characters trying to take center stage, those ugly goblin things, or what's that little orange cat thing that they're trying to shove to the forefront of the story? I forget its name. Loot, the ugly ass sin loot creature. You know, it's just got this nice, authentic, vintage feel to it. And that, I think, is going to help it become a mainstay in the world of TCGs for a long time. As long as Eric's Curiosa is smart with the game. And it does feel like they are being smart with the game. So, for all intents and purposes, what I want to say here in today's video is, congratulations, Sorcery fans. You guys found a really fun TCG with a really, really solid art direction, all things considered. So, good stuff. Thank you guys so much for advertising it to me and trying to get me to try it out, because it was very fun. But that's all I have for you kiddos today. I'm not sure if I'm going to talk about sorcery again in the near future. I'm sure that whenever the next set comes out, I will probably give a follow-up video. But for now, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you play sorcery. I'm curious to know your thoughts on it. Check out the Discord. Check out the Patreon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.